Candela Obscura exclusives, new Discworld RPGs, and more information on Vecna.
You belong here.
Welcome to Fantasy News Friday, our weekend news rundown. Today we're talking about some big Critical Role news, the new Discworld and Star Trek tabletop RPGs, and Vecna. Remember, if you like these kinds of news stories, be sure to keep with the liking and the subscribing so we can keep with the making. Now, on to the news.
News team, assemble!
A Discworld tabletop RPG is on the way. Modifius has announced that it is publishing Discworld, Adventures in Ankh-Morpork, a new tabletop RPG set within the world of Terry Pratchett's beloved Discworld series. This is the first in a planned line of tabletop games set in Discworld, as Modifius now has the license from the Pratchett estate. A fun fact about Discworld, many of the characters and concepts of that series came from Pratchett's time as a GM playing Dungeons & Dragons and other tabletop RPGs. A Kickstarter for the game will launch later this year.
That will be an important lesson.
Speaking of launches, Daggerheart is officially launching its open beta later this month. Darrington Press will release an open beta playtest for Daggerheart on March 12th, which is Critical Role's birthday, with a new Daggerheart Nexus at Demiplane as part of the release and a live stream of the cast of Critical Role playtesting Daggerheart on March 12th. Obviously, this is going to be a big release, and we're going to have a full breakdown about everything you want to know about Daggerheart, what's changed, what hasn't, and all that other stuff since we've actually gotten to play the game before. So be sure to keep an eye on our channel later this month.
We're gonna do something about it.
Speaking of Demiplane, the company also released its Alien Nexus for the Alien tabletop RPG published by Free League Publishing this month. I actually had the chance to try out the character building tools last week, and I had a blast playing as a cat. Just a fun fact for anyone who makes tabletop RPGs out there, if you give me the opportunity to play as a cat, I will play as a cat. Now, if you haven't played Alien, it's a horror RPG based on the iconic movie franchise that uses the Year Zero engine, in which players roll a pool of d6s in hopes of getting at least 1 6 for a success. Now, the game has a stress and panic mechanic that add more stress dice to the pool for all rolls, but if a player rolls a 1 on the stress dice, they have to make a panic roll, which can put them in a bad situation ripe for getting picked off by xenomorphs. Now, Demiplane has opened up the Alien Nexus for everyone, so be sure to check that out over on their website.
Check this out.
Wizards of the Coast has released a new video about Vecna, Eve of Ruin, which sets up the game's 50th anniversary. The campaign will feature a new mechanical subsystem built around secrets, so that players can use secrets in combat to their advantage. The plot apparently features Alustriel Silverhand, and I'm sorry if I got her name wrong, it's a weird fantasy name, Tanya and Mordenkainen accidentally summoning the players via a wish spell and then sending them to stop Vecna from collecting the Rod of 7 Parts. During the adventure, players will encounter Lord Soth, Strahd, and what appears to be Lolth as they travel through the multiverse. That campaign is available for pre-order over on D&D Beyond and will come out in May.
You have already lost.
Speaking of Modifius, they're also launching a new edition of Star Trek Adventures with content from Star Trek Brave New Worlds, which, by the way, is the best Star Trek show released since, Deep Space Nine, and Star Trek Prodigy. The new edition, which will launch at Gen Con, will allow players to create Romulan and Klingon characters in addition to Starfleet characters, allowing for a more diverse set of characters at launch. Assumably, the new edition will also feature a better organized rulebook, as one of the major complaints about the game isn't the rules themselves, but rather the difficulty in finding them.
I will look for you. I will find you.
Paizo is getting back into the card game business. Kind of. This week, Paizo and Catalyst Game Labs announced Runefire, a new cooperative deck-building game set in the world of Pathfinder. The card game uses the same game engine as Dragonfire, which was the D&D deck-building game made by Catalyst a few years ago. Basically, players pick a class and an ancestry, which forms the base of your deck, and then add cards to it based on what equipment they have and what feats they take as they level up and complete missions. A Kickstarter will launch later this year.
Keep an eye on it.
And finally, a new chapter of Candela Obscura launched this week on Critical Role's Twitch and YouTube channels. The new chapter, which features Taliesin Jaffe as a player and Liam O'Brien as the game master, saw a bump in viewership with over 7,000 peak viewers over on Twitch, which is the best Candela viewership that the show has gotten in months. And speaking of Taliesin, be sure to check out our interview with the immortal Critical Role player over on our channel. It wasn't all Candela Obscura in the interview. We also talked briefly about Critical Role with Taliesin, and of course had to quiz him on spooky boats over on our lightning round.
Candela Obscura Chapter 4 continues the grand tradition of bringing back incredibly dangerous cargo on an old-timey ship. It's a grand horror tradition. Just sort of make an insane decision, put a terrible thing on a ship. But which of these following insane boat movies is actually a fake? So which of these is not a real insane boat movie? The Final Countdown. A modern American aircraft carrier is sent back in time to stop Pearl Harbor. Blood Vessel. Shipwreck survivors are taken aboard a German boat infested with vampires in the midst of World War II. Cruise into Terror. A luxury cruise ship sets sail with an Egyptian sarcophagus on board, only to discover the Egyptian sarcophagus actually contains the son of Satan. Or The Penultimate Voyage of the Demeter, where the crew of the Demeter realizes halfway across the Atlantic they forgot to load Dracula's casket on board and just head back into port.
I'm going to go with the first one, actually.
Oh, weirdly enough, The Final Countdown is a real 1980s action sci-fi movie, and The Penultimate Voyage of the Demeter is one that I'd made up.
It seems so insane that I was like, somebody started a Dracula movie and ran out of money, clearly.
That's all the news that we have this week. Let us know what your favorite story was in the comments, and don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons.